I see smiling faces. Welcome back to another episode, huh? Hey. I hope you all liked the last episode. We had fun doing that, and we still have more stuff to share with you.
Pretty relaxed.
Huh?
That was a good relaxed one.
Yeah, it was a good relaxed
one. I think we were still on trip. I even wrote that in the notes, right?
Yeah.
You're still experiencing the tryptophan.
Well, which was the one where we kept talking about cereal?
Oh, that was...
was that before the last one?
That was immediately after Halloween.
After Halloween?
Yeah.
That was...
Because I bombed the Halloween one.
You know? Yeah, okay.
He had a really cute, very impressive costume on it. Yeah. Huge, like Middle-earth kind of face.
Yeah, I'll bring it back next year.
Okay.
I'll bring it back.
But we forgot to turn on the microphone. But then the following week, we got in the Wayback Machine. Yeah. The boys, they're actually pretty
Well, do you still have that episode on the camera?
No,
it's all gone.
Oh, the Halloween one?
The Halloween one.
With the faces?
Yeah. I mean, you could put on, could you, post, a 30-second one and explain, so the least they can see the mask.
I'll look at it, because I may have saved it.
30 seconds.
Sometimes, I've gotten, I don't know, a more expedient editor, one might say.
Okay.
Maybe more clever about, they don't really want to hear that stuff. So I chop it out. But there's been 2 or 3 episodes because I thought some of the conversation that we had was kind of good from a historical point of view.
Yeah.
Archival. But I chopped stuff out, but then I kept the original copy in the computer. I don't know if the Halloween one was in there or not. I'll take a look. We got in the Wayback Machine with the cereals and
the cartoons
and the cartoons.
Yeah, that
was fun. I mean, what do people have now? A lot of the stuff is what do you call the Japanese stuff? Manga. Anime, right?
Yeah.
Aren't a lot more cartoons kind of that style now?
More or less influenced by it.
Do they still show cartoons on Saturday morning?
Jeez, that's a good question. I don't know.
I don't watch.
I don't know.
Let us know.
Yeah. And what's the end thing these days? I think, believe it or not, I think the last time I heard was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were still up and running.
I know they did some revamped ones, there was a whole new Scooby-Doo.
There was a whole new Scooby-Doo and
I haven't seen it.
A whole new Spider-Man and a whole new Batman.
Cartoons?
They're very sophisticated.
I know. Actually, some of the cartoons, I've watched some of the Batman ones on Prime, I suppose, or whatever. Yeah. And those are good.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen any Spider-Man cartoons.
Oh, yeah. He's much more, he's smaller than the old 70s, 60s, 70s Spider-Man we used to watch.
So the cartoons, I remember cartoon books. Now that you mentioned that, who was the doctor, the guy that controlled universal powers? Benedict Cumberbatch just played him in the movie.
Dr. Strange.
Strange? It's just Strange, right?
Dr. Strange,
I remember going up to Read More, which was one of those kind of convenience stores up on, was it Home Road? Springfield, remember, there's the Dairy Queen, and then there's the little parking space. They had really good pizza. That's where people sometimes got pizza from Reedmore.
Oh.
But Reedmore was kind of a cool place. So you could go and get cigarettes and things like that kind of place. You know, an old 40s, 50s, 60s, more kind of convenience store.
Yeah.
And they had lots of reading materials.
Oh, that's nice.
They had, the stuff that we weren't allowed to look at was up at the top part with little shelf blockers and stuff like that. But there are tons of cartoons, and it was kind of cool because, I mean, they wanted you to buy something. Yeah. But if they knew you, like I had a paper route, so I'd come in and, you know, get a few comic books or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And they knew me, so I'd just like pull some out, look at them. I was never like a series collector.
Yeah.
You know, just one after the next. Not so much of that, but I found some things and pulled them out. But I was just thinking that these cartoons, especially the way they make them now, it's kind of dark. I mean, Batman is dark.
Yeah, Batman's dark.
Spider-Man was some of his bad people.
Yeah.
They can be kind of dark, menacing characters.
Absolutely.
That's different isn't that different from the kind of silly, kind of lighter-hearted cartoons that we grew up with?
It is. It is.
Or even the vaudevillian kind of influenced early Bugs Bunny kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, on a brighter note, the recent movie that came out in the last couple of years, Shazam.
They did Shazam?
They did Shazam! Of course they did.
I used to love Shazam.
And he's a writer.
There was something cool about Shazam.
He's got, you remember the what was that old series, the American Hero? The TV series. I mean, he was still learning his powers. He couldn't fly straight at the beginning. Well, no, the American Hero.
Oh, the American Hero.
But Shazam, the movie that came out like 2 or 3 years ago, he's very much like that.
I haven't thought about that in a while. I love Shazam. I think the color was pretty cool too. He kind of more yellow.
Yeah, well, he was all red, and he had that yellow lightning bolt.
Yeah,
and he had that cape. And, you know,
and then the other one I used to really love to watch. Yeah. I don't know why, because the story between him and his older brother made me feel kind of sad, like with Speed Racer.
Oh, Speed Racer.
Remember Speed Racer?
I do remember Speed Racer.
That was all Japanese.
It was all Japanese. Have you ever watched it in the original Japanese?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
heard it sometimes, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Much different from the English dubbed version.
But what was the deal with his brother who like comes in and helps him sometimes?
Yeah,
he can't know that he's alive.
Yeah, he's his older brother. Well,
I don't remember that story too well, but was that separation.
Well, it's
between
not
him and his brother, which always made me kind of sad.
Yeah, it's not so much that that he doesn't know he's alive.
He just didn't know where he is.
He just didn't know who he was. Yeah. I mean, he was Racer X. Remember Racer X? He always wore that mask and that
mask.
Yes. The X on the top.
Yeah.
And anyways, I thought he had the coolest car.
He did.
He had this. I mean, it was a yellow car with black stripes and stuff. That was the coolest car. And he was really, if you look at it more objectively, if he and Speed Racer actually, started boxing, I think Speed Racer would get his butt kicked.
Yeah, he was kind of he was like a typical, real, smaller kind of Japanese.
Yeah,
but definitely not a martial artist.
Oh, definitely not.
I was flashing on another one though that I used to really love too. Space Ghost.
Oh, Space Ghost.
With the white outfit and black.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Or Astro Boy.
Was he in the same show?
No. It was a different show. Astro Boy. Okay. How about Marine Boy? No. You don't know Marine Boy? Okay. Well, they sort of came out. They sort of came out at the same time as Speed Racer.
I don't remember those.
You don't remember those? Okay.
I'll look it up.
Must have been a New Jersey thing. So.
Oh, yeah, that's where he watched it.
Yeah, that's where I watched it. Marine Boy and Astro Boy.
And I liked Aquaman.
And that was American made.
What was that called? It's not Johnny Depp. Johnny Quest.
Johnny Quest.
Those were cool. I thought that was so cool because there's 4 guys.
Yeah.
2 older guys and 2 younger guys. And they're out there doing cool
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, they're excavating.
And his dad was a really cool professor with the red beard.
Yeah. And Haji, the one kid from India.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was quite. Yeah. That was interesting. I love that show.
Did he have like a special jewel or something that could see things?
No, but there was something mystical about him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he could put people to sleep. You know.
Yeah.
You know, he had control over cobras and snakes and stuff. He was also good. He'd be hell to find on hide and go seek, because I remember one episode there was a bunch of these large clay pots. And they were being chased, and he'd pop out of one. Then when he looked in there, he popped out of another. So he had that kind of a power. So that was pretty cool. I mean, it's no wonder if he had that kind of power. He should be able to whoop all those bad guys, really.
Maybe he can only do good things.
Yeah. So, do you still? Let's see. The radio station WOS. I don't know if it's still you. I heard it was another letter, different letter, but it's WOS something. But it used to play all the classical music.
Well, it's WSU, but they have more. I think they've been cutting NPR issues.
Yeah, they do.
There's a 101.1 here that's not WSU. I'll look it up real quick.
Now we're talking about the radio station, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Columbus, Ohio. Okay, it's WOSA.
That's what I thought. WOSA. And which station is it? Is it 101?
Around here, it's 101.1.
Yeah.
Apparently, it has a couple other call possibilities.
All right.
Out there. I assume it's connected with the ones here.
Well, I want to find out more about their programming. I want to know if they still have any piano programs. Remember the piano programs?
There's classical 101 schedule.
Oh, it is?
And it's interesting on WSU Public Media.
Ah.
So,
any piano programs on there?
Let's see. Oh. Well, they just have. They don't have that kind of a title. They have the names of the hosts.
Okay.
But it doesn't say specifically.
Oh.
Christopher Purdy's on it.
Yeah, he is.
No.
No, nothing like that? Okay.
They don't list them by
category programs either? Oh, that's a bummer. Because I used to listen to Paul Hume's Piano World.
I found a picture of him.
Yeah, I remember you showed his picture in one of our episodes. Paul Hume's Piano World, and let's see, Earl Wild eventually started a program. It was, he had about 20 episodes or something like that.
And who was the guy that said, hello, everyone?
Oh, Karl Haas.
Karl Haas.
Adventures in Good Music.
Yeah, I listened to that a lot.
Yeah, I did too. And Earl Wild mentions that program in his memoirs as well.
In a good way? No.
Not always. Not always. Okay. Yeah, he always made like 2 or 3 inaccuracy as far as info on certain.
Well, yeah, the interesting thing was some of the books that I have, which one could say for mass consumption of audiences, are pre-World War II.
Yeah.
So they're, the stories of the operas or books about piano repertoire, some different things like that.
Yeah.
There was a different style of, what's the word that I would want to use? I wouldn't say music, even music criticism.
Yeah.
A certain kind of romanticized, just overall, like classical, when we were talking about the comic books, like Doctor
Strange, yeah.
There's something Doctor Strange like about classical artists.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And they're treated a little bit. I mean, you see some of the old, for a long time, and even when I was young, I thought part of the cool thing about being a concert pianist man, I'm going to get the babes.
Oh God!
I'm going to meet all the rich people. I'm going to be and the truth is, that was kind of true. I don't know if it still is now. Who's that really great guy from Iceland?
Yeah.
Vikingur?
Yeah, Vikingur also.
I don't know how he's doing. But
well, he's married.
Oh, here you go.
Yeah, he is married. And he's got a wonderful wife. And
That's
very
good
happy.
for him. That's very Scandinavian.
Yeah.
Anyway, some of the books, it's interesting to read. I mean, it's good information.
Yeah.
And the erudition, the scholarship is always good. Karl Haas, come on. And I don't mean this as a criticism, if there's any family left over or anything, because he really was an inspiration.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But he was a little bit of hot air there about himself, I thought, just
a little bit.
And the way that he would talk was, I think, reflective of that kind of older school of earlier 20th century romanticized approach to the music in a way. I mean, I know that, what's his name? He's both a music critic and a composer.
Virgil Thomson?
Virgil Thomson.
Yeah.
Virgil Thomson was important. You want to look him up? I think that's Thomson, right?
Yep, that's
Virgil.
the one.
Because he wrote a wonderful piece. I saw it done in Madison. 4 Saints in 3 acts, based upon the writing of Gertrude Stein.
Okay.
And he wrote some music for it. It was really cool. I remember that at least part of the show, they staged it so everybody was on roller skates.
Oh, that's a rough one.
That was interesting.
That's a rough one.
Challenging too when you think about it.
Yeah. I've only seen that done once.
I don't know how many of those opera singers are necessarily that light on their feet.
Oh, no kidding.
But it was an interesting show. But Virgil Thomson is kind of credited, at least in America, with shifting towards what would be considered a more modern discipline of music criticism. Because he also wrote music criticism for the New York Times, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just some sidebar information, which is typical of me. It's kind of neat to go back and read some of those old books.
Yeah.
Some of the things, well, one really cool one is this Searle's book on Liszt.
Oh,
Humphrey Searle.
Humphrey Searle, yeah.
It's actually interesting because sometimes some of the stories that those people tell from the 19th century, which means in some cases they knew these people personally.
Yeah.
Or they knew people who knew them personally. And so the stories are like, mouth to mouth. There's an interesting chapter, I think it's in Humphrey Searle's book, where he talks about when Paganini died. Paganini was the famous violinist. There's a whole tradition of him going all the way back to Tartini and Corelli way back there. But he was the early 19th century incarnation of the devil on the violin.
Basically.
He was the reason that Franz Liszt became Franz Liszt. Yeah. And he did remarkable things, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Like, wasn't there one where he played one piece on one string?
One string.
Yeah. The A string.
That's right.
Did he take the rest off and just use one?
No, they broke. They broke off.
And he ended up finishing the piece.
Yeah. And so he finished the piece on one string.
So the story in Humphrey Searle's book was interesting because it talked about, I don't know, Victoria was a little early, but she made it all the way into the 20th century. But that kind of thing, mid-19th century burial practices. Yeah. And I just remember reading about it because it's quite detailed about how he was put in one of those caskets. He was very tall, apparently, like not a modern basketball guy. Yeah. Pretty tall. Fairly tall. Yeah. So he had a rather long casket and narrow because he was bony thin. Oh, yeah. Like Bob Cratchit kind of thing or something, one of those ticket shows. Oh, I was thinking Ichabod Crane. Perfect. Absolutely. Yeah. The nose and all bit. Yeah. It had a glass thing on the cover,
Oh,
so
yeah?
you could see his face.
Really? I did not know that.
And it was talking about that was quite common at the time. But if you look it up, it's in Humphrey Searle's book on Front's List. Really cool thing is at the back of the book is the Searle's list of compositions. Because for some time now, they've got a new, what is the newest list of catalog list?
Oh, I think it's the Budapest.
Is it the Budapest?
Yeah.
What is it? Something?
Budapest, BE something.
Okay.
Budapest.
But for the longest time, and you can still see in a lot of published books, like Schirmer's versions of the older editions of this.
Oh yeah, it'll say S.
S period number.
Yeah.
And it was a relatively reliable list, I thought. But that's in the book. But it was just interesting reading that. And then I have some books at the early 20th century when Schubert was first kind of coming back into the public eye, the public ear, partially thanks to, for example, Arthur Schnabel, who really played a lot of Schubert. Schubert had been kind of ignored, except by some of the greatest connoisseurs and a few performers for almost a century. And then he came back with a blast. But there's some very, one might say, charming and ridiculous stories about him, because a lot of the stuff's made up.
Of Schubert? Or?
Well, the early scholarship, they didn't know who he was.
Okay.
None of that stuff had been dug up. There's that famous, there's the American composer that wrote operettas, a really famous one from the late 19th century. He wrote I even found an original program for it. It was an operetta based upon the love life of
Victor Herbert?
From Victor Herbert.
Huh.
Is it, Rosamund is something he wrote. I forget what it's called. I'll look it up maybe and either put it on the screen or I'll look up my original program and show it to you in the next show. But it was quite popular for a while. Was the imagined love life of Chopin.
Oh,
the women.
Okay, I think, yeah, you're right. It is Victor Herbert.
And there's some interesting stories from the 19th century. The movie Amadeus.
Amadeus.
It was done by the Hungarian director, right?
Milos Forman.
Milos Forman. That story is based upon what was considered a very,
Based on an opera.
Rimsky-Korsakov, didn't he?
Okay.
He wrote the opera called Mozart and Salieri. And for the longest time after Mozart died, and through a good portion of the 19th century, and I think even going into the 20th century, it was commonly held that Salieri killed Mozart out of jealousy, that he poisoned him. Because in the end, Salieri in the movie ends up in the crazy house.
Yeah.
And it suggests that he may have had something to do with it. But, well, it's interesting. There's a really good book that I've mentioned several times by an English lawyer, barrister. It's not a really thick book, but it's called Mozart and Costanza. And it begins with this terrible situation in late December of the same year that Mozart died, just 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
But then there's a point where he's in the book and he talks about Costanza had written down things in her diary, which was saved by her children and which made it into the 20th century to be discovered musicologically. She was with, I think she called him Wolfie, right?
Yeah.
The husband. And they had one of the babies. They had a few kids. And they were walking in the pram in the Ringstrasse in downtown Vienna. Wolfie said, and I'm not quoting the exact thing in the book, but Wolfie said that he thinks he's being poisoned with aquavit. Aquavit is an ancient poison. It goes back at least to the Roman times. It's like water. It has no smell. It's perfectly clear. It looks like water. And fundamentally it tastes like water.
Yeah.
And it can be added to anything. The Romans often added it to wine and kill off their people that they wanted to kill. And it has a cumulative effect that basically, toxifies the insides. And Mozart believed that's what was happening to him. But there's interesting little moments in the, the books between Beethoven and his secretary.
I know who you're talking about.
Starts with S-C-H or something. There's some information, it's in the books you have here. I can't think of his name. All I can think of right now is Schikaneder, who participated in
But
Mozart.
that's Mozart.
No, that's Beethoven's secretary. I'll put it down, David. There were things that were known and understood, I think, at very high levels in Vienna at the time of Mozart's death and burial. And Beethoven knew. Beethoven would have been in a position to know. He was a very highly placed person with the kind of person he was. There were kings and emperors in Europe, but there was Beethoven.
Oh, yeah.
So he knew the most powerful people. In the books, he doesn't come out, of course, with the specifics, but he says certain things to the secretary communicating with him. You should read it if you can find it. The conversation books between Beethoven and the secretary. Damn, I can't think of the name. I don't know why. We'll put it up on the show. The British guy in his book, Mozart Costanza, I think makes a really good argument.
Strong case.
Because the guy professionally had handled murder cases in England. And he decided to look at the end of Mozart's life and so forth. And as an attorney, did his homework.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because he really is able to trace a little bit back in Mozart's life, very specific moments, events, things where he was.
Yeah.
They tracked down paperwork and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like it's a very TV friendly, let's say.
Yeah.
Lawyers are like Perry Mason, okay?
Yeah.
But the research work in the book, it comes off to me as very convincing. And I've never heard some of the other big musicologists ever really refer to it or really look into it that much, but I would strongly suggest, I put the book up before on our show.
Do it again.
Mozart and Costanza. I can't think of the author's name, but it's not a really big book.
No.
For me, it's the best argument I've heard of what happened to him and why his body and so forth was treated the way it was after he passed. It's a really cool, gripping story. So we got probably off.
Well, just a little bit.
We never
there was a
identified
reason.
ourselves.
Oh, we did? We did we? Okay, well, you've all come to know this brilliant gentleman over here. His name is...
I'm Mark, with basically half memory. I had a friend, a female friend in Boulder years ago. She says, I think I'm starting to suffer from Alzheimer's. Instead of Alzheimer's, Alzheimer's. Sometimes I just can't remember the names of everybody. And this very affable and very talented fellow is
Elmer.
And we are Marc and Elmer's PSI, Piano Scene Investigations. And these are our boys here. This is Eager and Grogu, and their good new pet, Tuki. Tablet.
Oh, hi. Yes. So, anyways, we gave you guys a rather pleasant prelude to the show. But there was a purpose in mentioning about radio stations.
Yeah.
About the radio stations, and I missed those old radio shows about the piano world and Orwell's romantic piano. The one show I wish we had here was the one that David Duvall had up in New York.
Oh, yeah.
I would have loved to have heard what
Well,
his
you
show
know,
was like.
if you can listen on the internet,
Yeah.
you can get most of these shows on the internet.
Yeah.
From New York, from Chicago,
Yeah.
you can get, and in certain places, you look around, and strangely, there's a really good classical station in Wyoming.
Well, I know.
Yeah, these little, backwoods kind of places where, but to be honest, years ago, I used to do a radio show on WYSO in Yellow Springs on Fridays over the noon hour. I forget what I called it, but, and actually, the classical station, actually all the stations of WYSO, at that time, I don't know about now, but the hosts were real specialists in their areas and did really good stuff. There's a guy that I think, was it only on Tuesday nights? For sure I remember Tuesday nights. Mostly chamber music, I think he called it. Jeff, somebody. Wow, he really loved and did chamber music. And I'm not talking just the old string quartets. I mean, anything from Haydn into the later 20th century at the time. And the later night that the show would go, because he did 3 hours.
Yeah.
From like 8 to 11. The last hour was some really out there kind of stuff. Chamber music, classical.
Wow.
But it was cool. But there are still some places where you can have that really cultivated kind of approach. The problem is in a number of places now, there was a station out in Denver, and they actually called our house. They're a good station.
Yeah.
But the people that work at the station are all like news people.
Yeah, right.
But then they would do the news in a semi-NPR-ish, but then the rest of the day they would do classical music. But you could tell when these people read the notes or talked about the music, more than likely they didn't listen to the stuff at home. They didn't, and they mispronounced things occasionally. And they called up, and I was surprised that my wife at the time, Robin, she actually said, I remember one of the words she used. She said, "No, I will not make a contribution to the pablum that you put out over the airwaves." Pablum is like a fake pill or something.
Oh, wow.
There's other good stations, and to be honest, they're fine. But too often, sometimes when you travel around, the people that do the announcing of the pieces, things like that, they're professional radio people. They're not necessarily professionally trained musicians or have this super passion.
Yeah.
Like certain amateurs who know more than we do. Kind of thing. Yeah. And that's unfortunate, but it's probably reflective of the overall position of classical music in the 21st century.
Yes. I like the pronunciation of Viola Lobos's first name. I have no idea how many times I've heard his first name pronounced. The announcer will look at the programs. Oh, we have here an orchestral by, Hector Villa-Lobos.
Hector.
Yeah. So, anyways, I wanted to use this prelude. That's okay. Don't worry about it. I wanted to use this opportunity to make that a prelude for our segment. PSI High Plains Drift.
Oh, we're doing that one.
Doing that.
We're back.
Okay, good. All right. So here I have in my hands. This is from House Clean once again, but I got these items years ago.
I love this stuff that you dig up.
So, well, thank you.
This one looks like it's a really good shape.
It's an excellent shape. I hardly got to use it, but it's been opened. I've cracked it open a few times.
Is this the one where the guy does the whole?
Yes, absolutely.
The Firebird?
The Rite of Spring,
Rite of
actually.
Spring, yeah.
So let me show it to you, folks. This is a Schirmer release of the 3 ballets scores of Stravinsky:
It's a beautiful.
Petrushka, Firebird, and The Rite of Spring. Okay, the Firebird and the Petrushka are actual original scores of Stravinsky transcribed to the solo piano. But the Rite of Spring, yes, it says so right here in the inside cover.
All right.
Stravinsky actually did it. I mean, they're for rehearsal.
Yeah.
So, but the actual Rite of Spring was actually done by a Russian pianist named Vladimir Leyechkis.
Yeah, okay. Talked about
Now, why did I talk about the radio concerning Vladimir Leyechkis? It's because, did I do that? Jeez.
Maybe we got a spirit here.
Oh, no, that's me.
That's you.
That's me. I need to lose some weight, folks. But anyways, Vladimir Leyechkis used to have a radio program here.
Excuse me.
I don't know, it was broadcasted from another city. I believe it was. But he used to broadcast, he and a friend of his would broadcast special programs on a single historical Russian pianist. He used to have, yes, Vladimir Leyechkis. You can look at that. So Vladimir Leyechkis, born August 8th, 1934, died October 11th in 2016. He was one of the last students of Heinrich Neuhaus.
Oh yeah, this guy. I thought he looked a little bit like what did we say, Leon Fleischer.
Oh yeah, Leon Fleischer. Yeah, I remember. Anyways, he began piano lessons in Baku, Russia, and later made it to Moscow Conservatory. He actually had his funeral here in Wilmette, Illinois. So,
yeah, I was thinking that maybe it was the Chicago Public Radio for some reason. I think I might have looked him up because you mentioned him in a past show.
Oh yeah, I did have him mentioned it. But,
and I think I looked him up.
So he came to the States in 1974, and I guess he was immediately made a faculty member at DePaul University in Chicago. There's not much information concerning his activities here in the States. All he did mostly was he taught a lot. He made a few recordings, concertized, lots of transcriptions, lots and lots of them. And one of them being the most, which one pretty much catapulted his name, was The Rite of Spring. It was even given the thumbs up from the composer himself. So he did record it.
This is beautiful.
Yeah, isn't it? He did record it. But recently, if you go on YouTube and look up performance of Vladimir Leyechkis' transcription of Rite of Spring, there is a young lady on YouTube. Her name escapes me. I wish I put it down, but she looks like she's only 20 years old, and she does play the whole thing. It's wonderful. Now, mind you, it's a transcription. He tried to get all the parts down, and it's really up to the pianist to decide, what stays in, what stays out. He tried to make it as every bit of detail from the orchestra score as he could. And so there's some long-held notes in it that can't possibly be held long enough while you're doing other things down here. So you do your best to get the line sustained. So, anyways, like I said, he did come out with a couple recordings, quite a few recordings, as a matter of fact, and I only have 2 of them. They were released by the Centaur label. One of them is called The Great Piano Transcriptions, and he has everything here from list transcriptions of Schubert, Wagner, Glinka, and let's see, he also has Balakirev's transcription of Glinka's Lark, the Lark. Let's see, there is also his transcriptions The W.C. Fett from the Three Nocturnes for Orchestra. And he actually has a movement from the Rite of Spring by Stravinsky. It says here, ritual action. Ritual action. And the infamous Feinberg transcription of Tchaikovsky's Scherzo from the Symphony No. 6. That's a barnstormer, a real barnstormer. Now, over here, I have another CD of his, which he calls My Favorite Tchaikovsky. So it's got a bunch of, wow. That's, okay. I wonder if it's the same one. No, it's got to be the same one. So he has the Scherzo from the Symphony No. 6 from 2 different CDs. Here. Both say Feinberg.
Show me that picture in that one.
Oh, this one?
Didn't that look like
okay, I'll show
Leo
you.
Fleischer when he had the beard and all that going on?
Yeah. I don't know if I have this close enough, but that's Vladimir Lietchkis at the piano. Dr. Marc thinks he looks like Leon Fleischer.
Must have been.
I can see that.
Yeah,
you can see it. Yeah, I mean, the program on these things are...
Well, if you just look at the transcription, right?
Yeah.
My God.
Now, his final projects, you can go on YouTube or Google it. His last couple of musical projects were transcriptions. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to watch how I sit down.
I tell you what, why don't you move into another box?
Well, how about I just move it back?
I don't know. No, I was just thinking there might be a floorboard thing. So if you put him in a different box, you might not.
Okay. All right. So anyway,
that's a new one. Laura just put him up there.
Oh, okay. How's that?
No, it's a big. Okay. He's a little funky in the body.
Okay. So anyways, his last couple transcriptions were actually one of Ravel's Bolero, and the other one was the Rachmaninoff Suite No. 1 for 2 pianos, transcribed for solo.
So good.
Yeah. So
Good for him.
yeah, it's wonderful. So the only performance I've seen of that work, I mean that's quite a barnstormer as well, is a pianist named Sandro Russo, who also had his hand in the published manuscript. He did some fingerings and some of the editing for the work for its final release.
This just goes to show, how huge this iceberg is that we talk about.
Absolutely.
When and we've often said, like with most icebergs, hey, you're lucky if there's 20% of it above the water.
Yeah.
Most of it is under the water. You can't see it. But the profundity of the thing is hidden. That's what ripped the crap out of the Titanic. What was under the water. But it's just a matter of, there is a consideration for talent, extraordinary talent. But then it's also, I think, luck, management, and somehow the right connections. Yeah, it's a little bit of a mystery because when you talk about taking the Rachmaninoff Suite for 2 p.m., Rachmaninoff people, right? One hand is hard enough.
Oh yeah.
Then you get 2, and then you got 4 of them going on 2 pianos.
Yeah.
And then the guy turns it into a composition for 2 hands on 1 piano. Yeah. And then you look at the reduction. No, it's not a reduction. It's a creative transcription of the Rite of Spring, for God's sake.
Yeah.
You think about how extraordinary some of these people are and have been. And it's just, I suppose, like in any situation, there's only so much room on the top 20% of the iceberg. Yeah. If it's like a little city or something, you can only get so many people on the top 20% of that iceberg, and the rest of them live somewhere else.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that just because they're not at the top of the iceberg, they weren't extraordinary. And I think this is something we try to share, is the entire world of all this stuff. And sometimes, you know, I'm going to say something which I mean with the greatest respect, but sometimes you might have the impression, now where do you pull that one out of his butt?
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
No, there was that Jewish guy whose house now is and he was some kind of an engineer, designer.
All right.
But his home now is used as a contemporary music festival every year.
That place. Yeah.
And I looked it up.
Yeah.
And it was a very fascinating story. Yeah. And the whole thing and the festival and all the stuff that was on there.
It's 2 episodes, 3 episodes.
Yeah. Remember his name?
I don't remember the name.
It's the one we had trouble pronouncing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the
Bijper.
Pittsburgh. That was the composer.
No.
I had brought in his piano set. It was Willem
Pieper.
Pittsburgh.
I used to say Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
I think it's possible the J is pronounced, but it's just been different things. I mean, and we talk about various kinds of people. I mean, I'm doing an analogy. There's really good baseball players in all the teams.
Yep.
And it's one thing to watch the New York Yankees. Okay? They're an old, well-established team with an incredible history. A lot of money because it's in New York. You know? But to be honest, when I lived in Tucson, I loved to go and see the AAA minor league farm team. I think it was some kind of snakes. The real team is, well, I don't know the Sidewinders or what they're called, but it was the Arizona Diamondbacks or the new Arizona
Diamondbacks.
Okay. These guys are called the Sidewinders, the Tucson Sidewinders. And it was great. You'd pay $2, and I had a seat down by third base, $1 hot dogs, and the players are right out there. Now, I would say these guys aren't making millions of dollars a year.
Yeah.
And the motivation to play for that money, I'm sure, was big. Yeah. So there were some times when you let a ground ball get through the gap between the third and the shortstop, and everybody yell at him and everything.
Yeah.
And you know, those guys were probably making $30,000 a year instead of $30 million.
Yeah. Pianos teacher salary.
But it was exciting, you know.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, well, I remember some things when Professor Wooden played sometimes. He did the over 4 concerts.
Yeah.
The complete preludes and fugues of Bach.
Wow.
All 48. I also remember when he did the Boulez Second Sonata.
Yeah.
I remember my teacher, Howard Karl, some things that he played, several things.
Shimanovsky's.
Well, then he came to Springfield and played Shimanovsky first sonata, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a bunch of other things, too.
There's great, wonderful opportunities to hear some really great musicians. And I don't want to blow too much on it. People liked my performances. People do. You know, and I found a way of performing which was quite compelling, I think. It's founded a little bit on maybe the 19th century traditions of playing, which I look into considerably between here and but I'm just saying is it's if you once you get into the front door with the Beethoven symphonies, with the big concertos and some of the big boys' names, and then the players who are really well known, and rightfully so, for their performances and things. Don't be afraid to just start looking around. And the thing that I admire in the case of some of the more oddballish collector and classical people that I've met who get really into things, like for me in a weird way, I think it was because of the Ives recordings a few months ago. The Lydian String Quartet, based at Amherst. Now I understand that they've got financial problems there at that school.
In Hammers?
They might actually let the quartet go. They can't keep it. But there is some of the finest playing, and of course different periods of time, there are different players. But wow, you know, it's just amazing. Let's put it this way, even if you live in Podunk somewhere, if you're lucky, and there's some really talented, well-trained classical people that also happen to end up in Podunk, that could be a lovely thing. You know, the kind of experiences that you can have. And you don't have to go and fork out $200 for a ticket and deal with parking, commuting, pickpocketing, and getting beaten up in the park in New York. You know, you just go out and love the evening and walk to the concert hall and hear a magnificent performance. It can happen everywhere. And for me, it's happened many times all over the place. I remember an amazing performance in Odessa in the Ukraine. The Odessa Philharmonic, this is the early 90s, the economy was bad. At the time they were just beginning to crawl out from the wall collapsing, 1990. And the country was basically being held up by the black market. These players in the Philharmonic had not been paid for 6 months.
Really?
But they were in there and they're still playing. Interesting, the music director was an American.
Okay.
And I remember they did probably Rachmaninoff 2, I think it was, concerto. And it was in the building they were in was interesting. It was coldish. It was cold.
Jeez, that's poor guy.
But they were playing, but the really cool thing was the Scriabin Third Symphony.
Wow.
And it was a gripping performance, and really well played. And what I remember especially is the trombone using vibrato in his solos. I haven't heard that done since the old days.
Yeah.
You know, I think it might have been out of a Russian tradition or something like that.
It could be.
But he's actually playing with a vibrato like he's singing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or like you would hear maybe like in old Jimmy Dorsey kind of things.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that, but you're right about the Russian thing.
Yeah, and
there's a
with the brass instruments, I mean, you can't do it so easily with woodwinds, but the brass would do. I've got some old recording where the trumpet plays with it. You could do that.
Oh,
right?
yeah, you could, but it's somewhat. What I've discovered, I mean, I don't know if we're talking about the same kind of vibrato, but I know in jazz, you know, when
because with the trombone,
when they're holding their trumpets out and just going full blow, like that.
But the trombone,
it can be more cantabile. Yeah, because there's I was going to mention that the Russian thing could be right. There is a Russian trombone concerto by Rimsky-Korsakov, where it actually is much more cantabile. You know, for
I was surprised because
standard repertoire.
I've got some old recordings that I collected one way or another, but a few of them my mom actually gave to me out of her collection. And one of them is, you think that they even did it in the Philadelphia Orchestra?
What is it?
It's Eugene Ormandy, but it's Rimsky-Korsakov something. Well, I forget what the famous, the Scheherazade?
Scheherazade?
And is there a time when they could do a vibrato on a brass instrument?
It could be.
And do you think they would have done that in an American orchestra? But what was amazing to me was in the Scriabin in Odessa, this was 1999 or 2000, like that. And the moment that I heard it, it reminded me of some of these older recordings that I had, where they played with the vibrato.
Yeah.
Because you don't hear that now.
No, you don't.
It's straight playing, right?
Yeah, most of the time. But if it's a solo, you know, that's something like what you said, the Symphony No. 3 by Scriabin, or the Concerto by Rimsky-Korsakov.
Flutes play with vibrato. But then I know that sometimes the conductors don't want it, or what they don't usually like is a really busy,
A warbling,
or busy vibrato. But that was the thing. I would say this guy's was unattractive or anything, but it was not a bleating vibrato, but it was vibrato, undeniable. But that was just an amazing performance. It was incredible. Well, anyways, by the way, I love the way this series looks.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It was a Centennial edition.
It is.
Looks like you bought it in the early 90s, probably.
That's about right. Early 90s.
It's an amazing edition, but it's also, when you see, compared to our typical Shermer editions, this is sewn really well.
Oh, yeah.
It seems to me that the paper is just a little bit better.
Oh, much better. Much better.
And it's slick.
Yeah.
On the outside.
Yeah, it sure is.
Where it's usually matte flat.
Yeah, it's using paper and cardboard, and it doesn't fall apart easily. But anyways, yeah, I was going to mention that as far as the transcription of Writer's Spring, back in the 90s, or possibly even in the 80s, I want to venture out and go back to the 80s. The composer Sam Rathling, Raphling, American composer, also did a transcription of the Writer's Spring. Okay, and it was premiered by Armenian pianist Atamian Babayan. Babayan?
Yeah.
Babayan. And he's now in Cleveland, I'm told. So I'm told he's in Cleveland.
He is.
He's a brilliant pianist, by the way. He really is. I mean, to handle something like Writer's Spring, and then he comes down here to Columbus, and I think he performed the Cacciatorian piano concerto with the CSO.
I don't know if there's any Russian influence on the training in Armenia, but there are some good classical musicians, really well-trained people that come out of
Oh,
Armenia.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But,
and who was the famous Soviet period? Didn't you write the series? Cacciatorian.
Cacciatorian.
He's Armenian.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Now, with that being said, from the 80s, Lietchkis and Sam Rathling, it is now 2024, and it is now being less, it's becoming more of a go-to project for many pianists now.
Really?
To write a transcription of Rite of Spring. I mentioned there is another Russian pianist. I can't recall his name, but his transcription has almost a Scriabin-esque flavor approach to the Rite of Spring. There was the Schwann magazine. He had that had sort of a little bit of a criticism about it, and they mentioned what a miraculous transcription it was. I wish I could find out what the name of the guy is. Now, if you go look on YouTube, there's even a Japanese guy that wrote a transcription of Rite of Spring. His very own.
Piano?
Yeah, for piano. There is also, let's see, I believe there's an English guy that wrote a transcription of Rite of Spring. So it's becoming more, I mean, these guys probably did it because it was sort of a project of theirs to go to, I don't know, maybe to get their doctorate degree or something. It could very well be. I mean, it doesn't get much more.
There's a great historical tradition amongst the Russians of these extraordinary pianists who were composers at heart, but they had to make money and feed themselves and their family.
Absolutely.
Horowitz is an example of that. Horowitz came from a relatively well-to-do Jewish family in Kiev and intended to be a composer. He even wrote stuff early on when he was a teenager.
He did.
But then, Soviet Union began and things changed, and you had to make money.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really fortunate. I mean, it's fortunate for us in the West.
Yeah.
I mean, the Soviet Union in and of itself, eventually, it really, I don't know that it created, but the tradition coming through in the 20th century created some extraordinary pianists. I mean, like for me, a more recent discovery is Samuel Feinberg. But I mean, there's Gilels, David Oistrakh, I mean, all kinds of stuff. All pretty clear. Yeah. Amazing people. But the beginning of the Soviet Union for us, in a way, created the necessity for Rachmaninoff to become a concert pianist. Because when he was in Russia, now he was already, he's around 30 by the beginning of the 20th century, right? Something like
1873.
Yeah.
So he was close to,
So let's put it this way: by the time of the First World War, or when the Soviets got all of Russia, well, it was 27. My God, he was nearly 40 years old. Yeah. He came from a very well-to-do
family.
Jewish family with land and everything. Yeah, but they lost it all.
They did lose it all.
But fortunately for us, he had to leave. He was Jewish, and that would have been a good place to be at the time. And immigrated and started performing. Yeah. And he did do some conducting occasionally. And continued to compose. And really, he became an American citizen and had an incredibly close relationship with Philadelphia. The orchestra, Eugene inside. There's a complete, there's all his concerti recorded with Philadelphia. And then similarly, Horowitz traveled as a young pianist all over the new Soviet Union. And then when they got an opportunity to leave, and that was Nathan Milstein, who eventually settled in London, Gregor Piatigorsky, the cellist, and Horowitz, they left as a trio. And they intended not to go back. Yeah. They hid money in their shoes and things like that.
Can you imagine that?
And went to Berlin. And Piatigorsky had the first biggest success. He'd only been there a short time. And I don't know if the opening happened or it was just so great that they said he became the principal cellist of the Berlin Philharmonic for a period of time. Yeah. And he was, they were all in their 20s or something. Yeah. But can you imagine how fabulous he had to have been to suddenly, who would have the conductor been?
It could have been.
I don't think, was Fort Finley wasn't there quite yet.
No, not yet.
But, I mean, suddenly, boom, like that, you're going to be our principal cellist. Yeah. And then Horowitz had some big moments in Hamburg and Paris. Yeah. Nathan Milstein did some beautiful work. He went to London and got, people loved his work, and that was it. I'm standing here. Yeah. Horowitz and Piatigorsky went on. Horowitz went to New York fundamentally. Yeah. Piatigorsky went to California. And settled out there. But if it hadn't been for the Soviet Union, some of these guys might never we might never got to know them. And some of them, Rachmaninoff and Horowitz, two of the most extraordinary pianists of the 20th century. Horowitz wanted to be a composer, and Rachmaninoff was fundamentally active as a conductor and a composer. Can you imagine that talent hiding in these hands? And it's possible that people wouldn't have known so much.
Well, he must have done, Rachmaninoff must have definitely done miles and miles of concert time.
When he was younger.
When he was younger, but at the end of his life, he's in his life.
Oh, at the end, yeah.
And he looks at his hands, and he looks at them, and he says, look at them, my poor hands. Poor hands. They look so tired. That's almost hard. So, but anyways, Latchkis, Vladimir Latchkis used to have his radio program. He talked about all these Russian pianists. And let's see, among them, Lev Overett. Lev Overett?
Well, one of the ladies that I heard play at the Novi Sad Serbia World Piano Festival thing. Yeah. She studied with Lev Overett.
Yeah. Let's see, there's also Grigory Ginsburg.
Ginsburg.
There's also Sokolov.
Yeah.
Alexander Goldenweiser.
Yeah.
Samuel Feinberg.
Yeah.
And the list goes on.
Who was the lady I put up recently?
Oh yeah, there was
Tatiana.
Tatiana
Nikolaeva.
Yeah, she was mentioned as well.
She's wonderful.
She was mentioned.
This is really.
Yeah, she was the chosen pianist by Shostakovich to record the complete Patelson fugues, Opus 87.
I was really pleased with that thing. I kind of got into, coincidentally, I think in last show, 0042. Yeah. I think I put it up to the Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
That you can go to that lists female concert pianists. Yeah. It does it by countries. Wow. And it goes way back. You know that Szymanowski had a distant relative back in Mozart's period? There was a woman pianist, Szymanowska.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it was in the family.
Wow.
But it goes way back into the 18th century and all the way to like the new ones like Yu Wang and some new ones. Wow. And an exhaustive list of female pianists from all over the globe through time. And I was just because I was thinking of when we were talking about I listed a few of them. And well, we were talking about Bela Davidovich versus Leonskaya. Yeah. And it was Leonskaya, I think,
Elizabeth,
who was discovered by Rubinstein, or fostered. So
anyways, all right. So I told you about Vladimir Liechkis. He recorded the Rite of Spring, but wait, there's more.
Uh-oh.
If you're looking for a piano solo performance of the entire ballet of the Firebird Ballet, specifically, Naxos has released one by Idel Beret.
No way.
Yes.
This is Stravinsky.
And it's the complete ballet, the 1911 complete Firebird Ballet, and she performs the whole thing from beginning to end. It's a very long CD.
I looked her up too.
Yeah.
There's some good collections of her stuff available.
Oh yeah.
She's still alive?
I don't know.
I'd
have to go Google her.
I just looked her up, but I think she may have just recently passed away.
I mean,
there's a huge box.
I would imagine
of all of her stuff. She is prolifically recorded.
Oh yeah.
Pianist. My God.
Complete
all the stuff that she did.
The complete Chopin, the complete Beethoven Liszt symphonies.
Complete Beethoven. She's got the concertos, the sonatas.
Yeah, the Ravel.
It's just astonishing when you look at her discography. She's a little tiny lady, man. I saw her. I met her. It was stunning in Cyprus. She came and played at Bella Pies. She did etudes of definitely, and they were like a complete opus set.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. It was definitely Rachmaninoff, probably opus 30. No, those are preludes.
Okay.
What's the collection of etudes?
Etude Tableau?
Is that opus 8? And then there's a later one, right?
Oh,
no, that's preludes again.
That's preludes, yeah.
Yeah, the etude Tableau probably.
Yeah, opus 39, opus 33, and opus 39.
I think she played 39. And then she did, I remember Ligeti. She played Ligeti, Rachmaninoff, and then it was probably Scriabin.
Okay, yeah, it probably would.
I mean, my God. No, she played one of the sets of Chopin. I think that was it. She played Opus 25.
Wow.
Played Opus 25, and then Rachmaninoff and Ligeti. But I think she did Chopin, Ligeti, and then finished with Rachmaninoff.
Okay.
I mean, it was a good 2-hour program. And I mean, it was just like, one piece after the next. I mean, for like grad students in school stuff, or let's say an undergrad, who spends the whole semester learning one etude. Yeah. This woman is like in her 70s. Yeah. Sits down and plays one etude after the next.
And it was probably felt like a walk in the park for her.
It was incredible. the hall was full, absolutely full. And a lot of dignitaries had come and they were sitting up in front. But I just got myself a chair and sat outside in the, I don't know what you call it, open, kind of open hallway. Yeah. It went a little bit to the outside because they're ruins from like 12th century monastery. Yeah. And the windows open and the tail of the piano was in there. And I just sat outside, smoked a couple cigars in the nice air outside and listened to this piano music. I have honestly rarely been, I'm going to go blip, 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 yeah, blown away by a pianist performing. Yeah. It was indefatigably amazing from beginning to end. And as far as I could tell, I didn't really know the Ligeti pieces so well. Yeah. The Chopin and the Rachmaninoff were faultless. I mean, just when you're playing. Yeah. That many notes and that long, all that stuff. It was this woman is, I think, needs to be remembered as one of the truly great, memorable, monster pianists of history. Yeah, he did learn. She studied with Cortot, right?
Yes, she did.
When she was a kid. Yeah, she was a child prodigy. Went to France and studied there, and she made her home in Paris thereafter. For her life.
Well, after having heard her play, I think she deserves to be mentioned in the same breath as Margaret.
Oh yeah,
she really does.
Well, then when I put that list,
she really does.
When I put that list of lady pianists up there, I thought all of them. I mean, right now, Martha probably holds the top of the show in some ways, like Rubinstein did when he was a grandmaster, because the talent has always been extraordinary. Yeah. Well, she's a big girl, you know, big hands, and she just plays with such power and bravura. I love that moment when she was at probably Verbier and Dutoit. Conducting the orchestra, and they were doing the Tchaikovsky. Yeah. B flat. Come on, people. Yeah. Anybody plays that, it's worth their salt. Yeah. And she was going like this with the left hand. Yeah. Let's go. Let's pick it up a little bit. She wanted to do it faster. I don't know if she had a big dinner date that night, or she just felt it was a little draggy, or a little too pompous. But I mean, she's what, 80 something?
Yes, she should be 80 something.
And
she's a grandmother.
And heard her play on television, and I think she played in the Digital Concert Hall of Berlin. Yeah, not so far back. It's extraordinary.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But you know, when you think of some other people whose names I put up there, I have some recordings going a ways back, and then more CDs of Leonskaya. Yeah, she's really quite an amazing pianist. And then Maria Joao Perez, she's come back from her retirement, performing it. There was that famous moment a few years ago when she's going to perform Mozart Concerto with Ricardo Chailly. Yep. And she prepared was it the C minor?
Or something like that.
And they started out, and she's going, oh my God, like this, you know. And it was, she had prepared the wrong concerto. And Chailly, which means that for some reason they didn't even get a chance to rehearse before. Yeah. So, or no, this wasn't a live concert because he had a towel or anything. This must have been the dress rehearsal. Yeah. Because he was talking to her. He said, no, it's fine. You'll be fine. It's okay. Yeah. And she played magnificently. And that night, they did the D minor. I think it was the D minor, but she practiced the C minor. Oh, but I mean, just these heroic, amazing moments. Oh yeah. And I mean, if you think of some of the other, like Myra Hess, is the famous Appassionata performance. It's on film. From the wartime concerts. She was a powerful pianist lady. mind and everything that was there. And what was Krauss, Lily Krauss?
Lily Krauss?
You know?
Yeah.
I had somebody tell me a story about her. She was a very big girl, Amazonian. Not this way, but big, tall, powerful lady. I have some of her cadenzas for Mozart concerto. But somebody told me a story when I was in Europe. They were at a concert, and they hadn't wheeled the concert grid out on stage yet for a concert. So she went backstage and she put it out, locked it down, and everything did all by herself. She was very powerful. Yeah. And I think about other people. She's probably more fragile, but such beautiful work. Yeah. Clara Haskell. Yeah. And was Lipati her student? Or? Didn't he have a famous female teacher?
Yeah, it was Nadia Boulanger, though.
No.
Yeah, he studied with Nadia Boulanger.
Yeah, but Pianist wasn't he a student of Haskell?
He might have been, but I know his name's mostly tied, for me. It's really tied to Boulanger.
Yeah. Lily was, they were both composers.
Yeah, they were, but she did play. So
not concert. But then there was other ones like Marguerite Long.
Yeah, I heard of that one. I have not heard her.
Then
have you heard Jean Marie Dar?
No.
Jean Marie Dar?
No.
Jeanne. Jean Marie Mare or Marie hyphen Darre.
Marie Dar.
Marie Dar.
Yeah, Jean Marie Dar.
Yeah, you never heard of her?
I have heard the name, but I don't know her playing.
Okay, well, all right. She's Earl Wild used to mention her every once in a while.
Oh wow.
Okay, and he said she was a wonderful lady, very sociable, very relatable. Toured the world, internationally, well known. She's from France, and she says the woman is indefatigable. Excuse me. And she became known as quite the party girl. She'd be going out with her friends or students. They'd be drinking and dancing till 3 and 4 in the morning. And then she'd come back the next morning, getting ready to do a master class at 8 or 9 a.m. And she looked just as fresh as she did the day before. She said that Earl Wild said that her scales were always crystal clear and pristine. He says, mostly because she just enjoyed practicing scales.
Wow.
That's what she did. It was sparkling clean.
One of the names I put up there that I learned about this lady through the tapes of the French piano concerto.
Yeah.
We talked about her and featured her in a show a while back.
Yeah.
Marilyn Doss.
Ah, Marilyn Doss. Yeah.
She's interesting. She was a young lady and was brought over to the United States, or welcomed in the United States when Paul Vajra he was for almost 10 years or so. He and his wife were resident artists in Madison. Mm-hmm. They had Gunnar Hansen, they had Paul Vajra and Howard was there. So forth. But I think that might have been where he was when she came over. And she went on to teach, I think, in Pennsylvania and Texas. Yeah. And I think she's still alive. Pretty old now.
Wow.
But, wow, that woman really could play. And if you're lucky, USSE. Well, actually, I bought some recordings of her. For example, I've got the complete Sanson solo piano music.
Yeah.
All played by her.
Wow. That's amazing. That must be a big collection. Is it a big collection?
I don't know. It's several CDs. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's just his solo piano stuff. Well, let's put it this way. Just his solo piano stuff? No. Lots of stuff.
Okay, more stuff.
Maybe 10 CDs or something.
Oh, okay. Well, now you're talking.
But, yeah. It's at least everything she recorded.
Okay. Yeah.
But Sanson was very fleet. He's not simple to play.
Oh, no.
I learned the G minor piano concerto years ago. And that's quite a piece.
Yeah.
The second piano concerto. It was because Rubinstein mentioned it. I love it because that huge prelude at the beginning. But the scherzo, I actually felt the hardest movement is the scherzo. Because there are these chords, you know, and different versions of things. The
Stephen Hoff says that the hardest one is number 5.
I haven't played anything other, but I can imagine. That's a wedding cake.
No, that's a separate piece. Number 5 is often known as the Egyptian.
Egyptian,
Egyptian, yeah.
But Sanson is a mother.
Oh yeah, he
There's
is.
a lot of stuff he wrote, and he was a genius. He was so fleet.
Oh yeah.
Because remember the Godowski went, and his only known famous teacher for a period of time when he was in Paris was very old Camille Saint-Saëns. He said he used to put his sock feet up on the,
Can
thing
you imagine that?
and next to the heater in the wall, and just an old guy by then. He lived forever. He was, I mean, Chopin. Let's put it this way: I think Saint-Saëns was 10 years old when Chopin died, right?
That was
Something like that.
Yeah, so
and then he made it past the First World War. The 1920s. He died in the 1920s. Wow. He was very old. But there's some great stories that Godowski talked about when he went to play something for him. And he said Saint-Saëns was, where's big old dressed like any French movie. But he had his big old sock feet up on a stool, warming him up, and had a little blanket over himself. And Godowski was playing.
Now, did you know he was only 13 when he performed all 32 Beethoven sonatas?
Godowski?
No,
Saint-Saëns.
13 years old.
That's how amazing
he was. Very amazing.
That's an easily, sadly forgotten, brilliant composer. Yeah. Because the Third Symphony, the Organ Symphony, one of my favorite pieces. I've got a wonderful recording of Georges Pret, and I think it's a Paris orchestra. I'm not sure which one. And I think they use
Jean-Marc.
But I don't know. It's an organ in a famous church in Paris. It's not Notre Dame, I think. But wow. And it's recorded in such a way that it's got some resonance. Because I think they did performance in the church. Amazing stuff. Amazing music. Well, I'm probably bored you.
Oh, that's okay. Incidentally, Saint-Saëns wrote 7 symphonies.
Yeah. Actually, I think I bought them.
You bought them?
There's the, what do you call it, the Malmö? It's a Swedish orchestra. It's a complete Saint-Saëns symphonies.
Wow.
And I think every year it's, is it probably 7 CDs or 6?
Something like that, yeah.
And I have to look that up and put it up for you, but there's a series of recordings made by that orchestra.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's always the same conductor, but they're really quite adventuresome in terms of the repertoire and stuff they do. And I bought it. There's a monster, I don't know who publishes it, but there's a monster set of complete sense on everything. I think it's not very classic. It's maybe one of these new international, we would know the name in America, but it's maybe not something common, I forget. But it always seems a little more pricey than I paid for it. It's like $75-80 for the whole thing, but it's a big box, and there's really great artists. So what else you got?
Okay, so the next part. Here's a here's a composer that we talk about quite often. This is a CD by pianist Easley Blackwood.
Oh, that's weird. I just read about his name. Passing.
Yeah, Easley Blackwood. And this CD is a recording of him performing Charles Ives Piano Sonata No. 2.
That's why.
The Concord Sonata.
That's why. I was looking at Charles Ives stuff and his name was in there.
The Aaron Copland style.
Yeah.
Check it out. Yeah.
Easley Blackwood.
Yeah.
What, have you listened to it?
I have. And my goodness. Yeah, there's a reason why people have been raving about this CD. it's ironclad. I mean, it really, I mean, it's all there. I like the Copeland Sonata. This guy's credentials is impeccable. I mean, look at who he studied with. Messiaen, Boulanger, Paul Hindemith. Yeah.
He was a professor at the University of Chicago.
Who else do we know that went to the University of Chicago? Etchkis.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Etchkis.
That's a great city.
Yeah.
I mean, New York is amazing, and it's a wonderful place to go.
Yeah.
So much to see and experience. But I was stunned the first time I went to Chicago.
Yeah.
It was clean.
Yeah.
And the people were friendly.
Oh, they were?
Well, more or less like in Midwesterners, you know.
Okay.
My first experiences in New York, this was back in the 70s, late 70s, beginning of the 80s. Huh. That's before, what's his face, Giuliani came and cleaned up things. I think it was, who was the Jewish guy who was mayor for a while? Then they had the black guy who was in there for a while.
Wow, I don't
cleaned up the subways and stuff. But man, the first times when I went there, come on, this is like you see the TV shows and the things about New York, Kojak, and things like that, from the mid 70s, later 70s.
Streets of San Francisco.
Well, this is New York, though. As a Midwesterner, at the time, I just thought people, David Dinkins, I think, was the black fellow, was the mayor. And I mean, we went there a lot because my wife's parents were based in Jersey, just across the marsh from Manhattan. So we went to visit many times. But my first impressions, I'm sorry, but it's just rude, I thought. You know, coming from the Midwest, it's rude, hostile. Like, you go into a store, you know, and you have to find somebody and beg him to help you to give you service.
Yeah.
I'm in the Midwest. Hello, how are you?
Yeah.
Let me know if I can help you with anything.
Absolutely.
You know? And then I remember specifically, we went to, was it called Patelson's?
Patelson's in New York? Yeah, the music store.
Across from,
no longer around, but
across from Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
Back into, that was the place to go for music and stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
This was 1981, I think.
It's like the Von Maur music stores.
Well, you can find anything you should expect.
You really
Now, a lot of it wasn't on the floor because they disappear
exactly
into these little doors, and then apparently it was 3 or 4 stories high.
Yeah.
The bulk of stuff was in there. I did get to see it one time. I peeked in. There's just like these little narrow passages through these super.
That's where John
places.
Browning got the copy of the original 1913 version of Rachmaninoff Sonata No. 2.
Cool.
That's where he got
That would have been that kind of place. But I remember I went in. I think this is actually 83. This is when I was on my way to Tübingen. I was going to go to Germany for school. And I want to take some music with me. And I was interested in Poulenc. Now, I know for a fact, because you can hear him in recordings, his name was Francis Poulenc. So I went in to the store, and I'm pretty sure, you know, they would hire younger people that went to school there. So this was probably a blonde soprano who was working.
Okay.
And he was tallish, very Nordic.
Okay.
And I came in and I said, I was looking for, actually more than a few, 2 or 3 pieces of Francis Poulenc. First thing she did was, it's pronounced Poulenc. His name was Francis Poulenc. And she was really just like, that's the very first thing she said to me, like, what? Who are you? You know? I said, Francis Poulenc. She goes, Francis Poulenc. You know, over honking it, you know. And I just looked at her. It's just like, whatever. Do you have music? You know.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe that. But then, before then, back in 81, when I think Robin and I went at Christmas time, I found all these LPs. This was when people were moving into, beginning to move into
CDs.
discs.
Yeah.
But they still had a lot of LPs. Now there's a whole bunch of them over there on the shelf.
Yeah.
Arthur Rubinstein boxed collection. So the mazurkas, waltzes, some different things like that. The 60s vintage recordings. I remember at the time, I wrote him a check for about $85, and that was a lot of money back in 1981.
Oh, yeah.
But I got all these box CDs of Arthur Rubinstein, my hero, because you couldn't find them anymore. And I'd never seen that many at once. So if you look over on the shelf, a lot of that stuff is from Patelson that day. And I found them and I brought them up and I said, "Is it okay if I write you a check?" He said, "Yeah, sure. That's my idea." And I said, "I'm so excited to find these recordings. This is so well. I'm glad we have it." Then I say, "We're visiting here from Ohio." Next thing I said, "Well, the check is from a bank in Ohio."
Yeah. And
I have my driver's license. I said, "Yeah, we're visiting from Ohio." "Oh, I'm so sorry for you."
What the heck?
I mean, "Oh, I'm so sorry for you." It's like, I mean, it was so stunning that I just,
what's wrong with Ohio?
I couldn't respond, you know. I just thought, what a rude thing to say. And we walked out of the store, and then I was talking to Robin about it. I said, "What is with these people?" "Yeah, I know, it's Carnegie Hall, it's New York, it's you're the best of the best and all that stuff. But, I mean, my God, the subways are disgusting." Yeah. Go back in those days before Dickens was, I think Dickens was the one that's famous for cleaning up subways. Yeah. If there were 3 light bulbs, 2 of them were out, dimly lit. Yeah. And it smelled like pee. Bad, stinky, soaked in pee down there. And then the people in the coats and sleeping all over everything. I'm talking Midtown Manhattan down there, you know? And the rude people in the stores and, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't a great time in New York at that time. It was not good. Now, in later years when we went back, or even when I went back on my own years later, it had changed in the 90s and 2000. I was surprised. I went into a store in Greenwich Village. I just arrived in New York, and I forget what I was thinking. I went into a store. And the very first thing I had heard when I came into the store was, "Hello, let us know if we can help you."
Wow. Did you tell me you were from Ohio?
No. But I was stunned. I was really stunned because, man, what are they putting in the water now? Because it was just like everything had changed. Yeah. Somehow they caught on to the idea. We might get better business overall and build a business more if we were more friendly to the customers. Yeah. Maybe that's why here in the Midwest, we've been overrolling you in terms of money coming into our business. Yeah. You know, just because we were friendly to people. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I told a little bit of story there about it. But that's funny. That's amazing. It's an amazing place. I mean, there are other great cities in the world. I'm sorry for you. But in some ways, historically, and in some ways, I mean, let's put it this way: if you make it in New York, really make it. Yeah, you would make it anywhere. You definitely get a place on that iceberg somewhere. Right? Yeah. Amazingly, some really great artists that I've known personally or know about historically or heard. Really do big deal. But then you talk about a guy like this. Yeah. Now you speak about his performance. Come on, anybody who's on the piano faculty at the University of Chicago or Roosevelt University, yeah. Because I knew a Polish guy who was on the faculty at Roosevelt. He came and played a couple of times at the University of Wisconsin-Madison because he was dating a doctoral student that was in our program, Terry. Or she was dating him. But I think they were together for a long long period of time living down in Chicago. That's Pavel Kaczynski. And he was a big, powerful Rubinstein Polish kind of pianist. Really passionate, amazing piano player. Pavel Kaczynski. C-H-E and then Chinsky. And something like that. I think he's still alive.
Wow. That's amazing.
But Chicago is an amazing city too. So, Easley Blackwell.
Yeah.
Ever heard of him? Not until I was looking stuff up about performers of the Concord Sonata. And all I need to know that he was on the faculty in Chicago. Yeah. That's big time.
Oh yeah, very big.
There you go. There's the iceberg again.
Yes. Now, this next little item is an all Copeland CD. Well, piano. And the pianist here is Eric Parkin. Eric Parkin.
Did we mention him before?
Yeah. I don't know if we have mentioned him before. Let me show it to you. This is a fairly older CD. Eric Parkin. Let's see. The year on this thing is... Wow, I can't find it. 1992. There it is. Music published by Boozy Hawks. Released here on recording 1992.
I remember.
There's
You
a
showed
picture.
me this last week.
I did.
We didn't get.
We didn't get to it.
He's a
but
British pianist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now Eric Parkin. He's more of a pianist with more lyrical, poetic leanings.
Good.
Okay. Now the Copeland, if you listen to this recording, there are portions of perhaps like the piano sonata and the piano variations. I'm assuming most of our audiences here are familiar with those, at least those two works. Some of the episodes in those works is what Aaron Copeland labels as the laying down the law style.
Yeah.
Okay, laying down the law. Particularly the opening theme to the piano variations. There's one note where you depress slightly, and you're supposed to get the ringing sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overtones. Yeah.
So, and you won't. It's hard to hear on this one.
Yeah.
It's very hard, as opposed to this one. Huh. Okay, you can hear the overtones. Okay. This, he has a few aggressive moments here and there, but my only criticism is, it's fabulous playing. It's fabulous. It's poetic. It's very lyrical.
This is claimed to be.
I would imagine, in some ways, it's almost Chopin-esque.
This is not complete repertoire.
No, it is not complete repertoire.
But there's a hell of a lot of stuff.
It is a lot of stuff. But
and there's more. There's some more lyric opportunities with the repertoire.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Our Town, Before Piano Blues.
Yeah.
Midsummer Nocturne, Down the Country Lane.
Yeah.
Pieces like that.
Down the Country Lane.
Who's the recording of it? Did Louis Capel record any solo stuff?
He recorded a couple of the piano blues, and he recorded the piano sonata.
Is that the thing I'm thinking of?
He did record
very. I can't remember who the pianist is, but really Rubinstein-esque kind of like.
Oh yeah.
Big concept.
Oh yeah.
Piano sonata. And did Copeland record it himself or no?
Which? The piano sonata?
Yeah.
I would imagine there's a few lucky collectors.
The concerto.
Yeah.
Is that
concerto? Yeah.
That he played.
He also does the piano part in the clarinet concerto.
He was one of the big exponent pianists earlier in his composition career. And somebody played recording stuff. Remember?
Oh. I can only mention maybe Paul Jacobs.
No, that's also more recent. Paul Jacobs was amazing.
Yeah. But earlier? was a one guy. There was this one pianist that only did all the technical work on his pianos. Whenever he went out to perform works by Copland, he always made sure himself that the piano was in tune and made sure everything was good and tight, because the opening to the variations, boom, bum, E, C,
Who's the
D sharp, C sharp.
Is it the pianist that dedicated one of the piano blues to that was famous for his concerts?
Perhaps, yeah.
Well, what's his name? Is it in there?
I don't know.
John.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. This is John.
Yeah.
I can't remember his last name though.
Sweet.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Let me see if I can find it in here.
He was really famous pianist at the time.
That's the guy I'm talking about. He's work on his own piano.
Here they are. I'm looking at Wikipedia.
Okay.
Pardon us, people, while we do a little.
Yeah. We're doing our PSI detective work. Okay. Can't find it in here. Maybe it's in the other one. And I know who you're talking about. This is John something.
Oh, here they are. No.
It
isn't actually. Yes, John Kirkpatrick. Wasn't it?
Who is it?
John Kirkpatrick.
Patrick, that's the one.
Kirkpatrick.
Yeah, John Kirkpatrick. That's the one.
Yeah. He was famous, really, I think, a big-time performer of the Ives' Second Sonata.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently he's a big guy with big hands.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
That's a recording. I think I didn't really record it. Because I've got an old mono recording, and I was just stunned by the power and the squareness, the angularity of the performance. It's a rich performance. I would say it's not baggy or nasty, and not in the bad, like steely way that some of the Russian performances were very can be. But really powerful. Yeah. That might, if I mean a more lyric approach to that kind of repertoire might not be right. It would be perhaps enlightening or insightful.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Refreshing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if anything, it is musical. Okay, it never stops being musical. Eric Parkin. Now this Copland CD is not the first time I've heard of Eric Parkin. He had another CD before this one. It was an all recording CD of the Canadian composer Robert Farnon. Farnon. Now, some of you may not be familiar with him, but he's a Canadian composer, and the only way that I can think of describing his music is if you could sort of melt the compositions of Leroy Anderson and Debussy together, you've got Robert Farnon to the T. Do you remember a while back? There was this children's show called Barnaby and Friends.
I never watched. That's the Purple Dinosaur, right? No,
that's not the Purple Dinosaur. It was the guy with
Barney.
Yeah, that was Barney. This is Barnaby and Friends. And he was the one that used to close his show every time the same way. He says, today have a good day. Remember to go out and go to one of your dearest friends and let them know that someone came by to visit you today to let you know that you, the nicest person in the world. He used to say that at the end.
Was he a dog?
No,
he
was a real person. He used to have a cane. He used to have one of those Dixieland type hats on, and he'd show cartoons on the show. And he'd sit on a giant mushroom, and the music, the opening and closing music is actually Robert Farnon.
Did you know that?
Absolutely.
You know, you guys sometimes had things up there in Toledo or Cleveland.
Yeah.
But we didn't get down here in Cincinnati. Like things that were broadcast.
Yeah.
Because I remember there was a wonderful show that came out of Cleveland. They started to show it on the ABC station on Saturdays. Yeah. Kind of a horror thing, but it was like comic. But they had a great set with the witch and a mad scientist and stuff, and the laboratory and all this. They, show their B movies and stuff. But I saw that probably in high school, and apparently it had been going on for a while.
Yeah.
But we had Dr. Creed and Snuffy the Dog stuff from Dayton.
Yeah.
Southern and Northern Ohio were sufficiently, I suppose, also for whatever reason, licensing or the range of broadcasts and stuff.
Sometimes you could catch it on UHF.
And you were probably more in the Toledo area.
Yeah, we were, right.
And then east of that would be Cleveland.
Lima and Lorraine.
Lima. But we were down in Springfield receiving stuff from Greater Miami Valley. Okay. And sometimes we get Cincinnati stuff. Yeah. Would come up. Interestingly, I think Columbus was an island unto itself. We never got anything out of Columbus. Maybe the PBS might have come from Columbus. Well, but so this Farnan guy,
Robert Farnan,
wrote the theme music for the show.
He wrote the theme music to the Barnaby and Friends. Originally, the piece is actually called Fontaine de Claire or something like that. You could look it up. It's beautiful music. The only way to describe it is like a cross between Leroy Anderson and Debussy. It sounds just like that.
So even the remind us now, Leroy Anderson. I'm trying to think. Yeah. Did he do the typewriter thing?
He did the typewriter thing.
And did he do one of the famous Christmas songs?
Yes, Sleigh Ride. But he's written some very beautiful work. Mm-hmm. There's one called Forgotten Dreams.
That's Leroy Anderson.
Yeah, but he's done some beautiful works as well. Did you know he has a piano concerto?
Leroy Anderson.
Leroy Anderson has a piano concerto. Well, basically, it's a caricature of the most dramatic piano concerto. Okay, so there's I think Philip Sear or somebody actually recorded it on Naxos. That Groffet has a piano concerto.
Freddie Groffet did the orchestrations for George Gershwin.
Yeah, well, at least
some of
or some. Yeah. Let's see, the piano concerto of Freddie Groffet. You can find a recording of it by Jesus Sonroma. So that's an interesting one. So, but if you're looking for something new, definitely look up Robert Farnan. Now, Eric Parkin didn't conduct an orchestra on that CD. What he did was he actually transcribed the orchestral music on the solo piano. So that's what he did. Anyways, it is now an hour and 47 minutes.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. So, folks,
we're trying to keep them shorter.
Yeah, we're trying to keep them shorter for us or for
these
you.
guys have been really quiet.
Yeah, they have been. They've been very well behaved. Tukey?
Yeah, Tukey.
I'm very impressed.
I haven't found any bird poop anywhere in the house.
Wonderful.
I think he's going to be okay. Wonderful. So, boys, thank you.
Yes, thank you for bringing it home.
We are listening real good.
Oh, no, it's interesting, yeah. That's good.
So, folks.
Well, I don't know.
Oh, wonderful. Wow. So, folks, if you enjoyed our program today, the topics, if you enjoyed our conversation, comment, like, and subscribe. We have plenty more stuff to do. Plenty of stuff to show you. Plenty of stuff to recommend the listening or reading. Just plain, basically, this is what we love to do.
Yeah.
So, come back and visit us again on episode 44.
Yeah, this is 43. Assuming that it's okay, and then we get that.
Yeah, exactly. So, folks, this is
I'm Mark.
I'm Elmer.
And we are Mark and Elmer's PSI. Piano Scene Investigations. Bye-bye, everybody. Say bye, guys.
Bye. See you next time.
Yes, absolutely.